G'day folks, welcome to this report on progress through operational scenario 18.1.4, the first volley. I'm almost at the end. This is only a two-turn scenario. It's pretty quick. And look, as you can see, most of the operations have been complete. There are only a small number. I've got two VC units here, and then the Americans around here left to operate. Now, because this is getting close to the end, it's kind of hard to track the VP. So I thought I'd do a run through everything as it stands and see who is in the lead, basically. And it's very close. So basically, running through the VP schedule, the NLF get points for having each town occupied. So, out here, 2 points, 2 points, 2 points. There's a lot of those going around. 1 point for each cultivated hex that is occupied at the end of the scenario. So that's where I've tried to put the VC on these cultivated hex. Okay, so they get 1 point for each of those, and then half a point for each other hex. Now I haven't counted that yet, but there aren't many other hexes. They've really tried to focus on cultivated hexes. That might be, no, that's cultivated as well. I think all the NLF units are on cultivated hexes pretty much. They also get points. It is 1 point for each US replacement point and 1/4 of a point for each ARVN replacement point expended. And so they've got a few more points from there. That brought them up to about 25, 26. And then the Allies get points for VC battalions eliminated. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points out here, which brought it back to 22. Now, for this scenario, a score of 19 to 22 is a draw. 23 to 30 is an NLF victory. So if the NLF can score one more point, they're in the victory range. If the Allies can bring this down to 18 or less, it'll be an Allied victory. Now, as you can see, there's only 2 VC units remaining. It's going to be very tough for them to score any more points. For the VC to score any more points, bearing in mind that these guys are in a town, so if they leave that town, they're in trouble. For the VC to score more points, they need to reduce US replacements. So any combat involving the US that causes US losses will give the VC, the NLF, victory points. Now conversely, the Americans who are sitting here in Hue, all right, if they can kick this battalion out of this area, that's at least 2 victory points. And, well, VC replacements are down to, it's very close, is the short story. We do have our reconnaissance unit back here. They probably can't do much from here, but we've got this whole 4th Regiment of the 3rd Marine Division here. And they're well placed to maybe move into Volley. So this will be if they can kick them out of here, there'll be 2 victory points there at least. If they can just keep hunting that unit, it could be 3 victory points. 1, 2, 3, which will give the Americans, what I say, they need 17. They need 18. Yep. So if the Americans, even just kicking the VC out of this location, will give them enough for victory. Sorry, not kicking them out. And wiping them out. It's only a 2 strength battalion. So if they can get that done, they win. There's also opportunities to wipe out this unit or wipe out this unit. So yeah, look, I thought it was pretty close, but looking at it now, with all the American battalions remaining, I think they should be able to get the job done. So what I'm going to do is pause here, run through it, and then I'll report back after another couple of operations. Okay, folks, so things didn't go all that well for the Americans. The biggest problem is they suffer casualties in these combats. And I know I've learnt a valuable lesson here. The main lesson I've learnt as the Allied player is to combine US forces with ARVN. I'll talk about that in a moment. The reason is every combat, most combats, the US are often just suffering that one casualty. And this is just trickling down US replacements. This is a problem because every time I use a US replacement, it's a 1 VP increase for the NLF. Now, it's a problem because it's 1 victory point to eliminate a battalion, And when I do so, I'm certainly getting a victory point for clearing them out of this cultivated terrain. So it might be, if they were here and I wiped them out, that might be 2 victory points. But along the way, I might be losing a US victory point. I'm only getting a net +1. And in fact, in some of these battles, I was losing 2 and I think maybe even 3. So I'm down to 18 US replacements. So the strategy, it's tough, okay? It would be better if I had ARVN and US forces working together and using the ARVN for these kind of activities to kind of... ARVNs, they can take 4 losses before the NLF gains a VP. That's what I should have been kind of focusing more. It's tough because even at good odds, you know, the Americans have still, in a good die roll, the Americans can still lose some casualties. Okay, so what was happening was we certainly cleared out the VC forces from the south. Again, that is victory points for removing the units, plus the VC lose those victory points for holding cultivated terrain. So I've been pretty good in removing a lot of these down from the south. You can see these five remaining units. I don't know why that should not be, that should be green. Okay, there's only 4 down here south of Da Nang. And they were just the 4 that I couldn't get to. Kind of cleared out this middle region pretty effectively. Finally got rid of that VC regiment. Now this is a correction, a very important correction in the playbook, in the living rules. This is actually worth 3 VPs. Okay, so I actually stated what happens to regiments. It is in the living playbook. So 3 VPs of that, plus the VP that they were occupying. So it's a net swing of 4 VPs when I wiped that out. This is where the tension was. And you can see at the end, this is where I've ended it. The NLF, they just cannot attack here. They could swing down and around and attack the Americans, but then, you know, they're currently holding 2 cultivated areas. Oh, actually a town here as well. So that's basically 3 VPs if they sit there and do nothing. They are marginal. This is the VPs are currently in the draw region. So we're currently sitting on a draw. And the NLF needs several victory points to get it up to 23. They need 3 victory points or 4 victory points to get it up. Now, the only way they can do that is if they inflict losses on US forces. There aren't many other towns they could capture. The Americans are there. They could attack that, try to capture it, but it's very risky. I don't think it'd go their way. Which means that they basically pass the initiative over to the Americans. They say, look, we are exhausted. There's not much we can do. Your choice. And the Americans now only have these 2 battalions left. What can they do? They could try to attack, search and destroy this battalion. It's pretty weak. They've got 3-to-1 odds. They've got a couple of air units up their sleeve, but even then, that unit just has to walk away, or if the Americans suffer a bad roll or 2, VPs could creep up. I think it's fair to say it's most likely the Americans will wipe out this unit because they have no artillery. But then they're done, and then there are no more Allied forces available. And that then gives these NLF forces the opportunity to respond with impunity. They could then come down here towards Phong Dien, and the US ability to respond would be much more limited. So the Americans are like, okay, we're sitting just off a victory here. We don't need much to push it a little bit further, but it's a pretty big risk. And weighing up the risk, the Americans decided to also pass. And that means that the scenario ends in a draw. A draw leaning towards the Americans. They only needed 18 VP to win, I think. But yeah, as I said, once these 2 battalions have ops complete, it kind of gives the NVA a bit of a free rein, which the Americans just aren't prepared to give them. Keep in mind, this is 14 strength, plus they have their up to 4 intrinsic artillery for a strength of 18. And if they attack Phong Dien, that's 18 on 6, which is 3-to-1, which could spell trouble for the Americans. Not only could they lose, they could lose a lot of US replacements, they could lose US units. Oh, they'd be a long way from losing units, I guess. More importantly, they'd probably lose a lot of US replacements in that attack. Whereas the NVA, They've still got 7 up their sleeve. So I'm just worried that, yeah, the NBA could do a lot of damage. All right, folks, there you go. It's a draw. Calling it a draw. Thanks for watching. Take care.